So I had a very candid conversation with Faith is a Substance. Lovely, lovely particular thing. I'm going to leave like a link of all of this down inside of the chat so y'all can see exactly what's going on and follow the entire video and watch it. But one of the things that Faith is a Substance mentioned and talked about was the whole idea of this rift between Caribbean people and sometimes Africans as well too, and say for example Black Americans. And I'm gonna just leave it our community, and if need be, I might spread out wide into everything else. But hey, let's look into this.
Big on schoolwork in Jamaica, where it's like it's a
Oh
big
yeah,
thing.
you ain't got to tell me. I already know. I've dealt with plenty of your Caribbean people in my lifetime, and oh my goodness, y'all really passionate when it comes to education, and which is nothing wrong with that at all.
That's
You
right.
know, but I think sometimes, and I'm not talking about you, but I'm saying in general, a lot of people, especially from the West Indies, they kind of tend to look down on Americans, but that's a whole nother conversation.
All right. So I just want to highlight this in terms of, let's stop it right there. So you do have that a lot of people sometimes from different countries, and it does happen with all other countries. Look down on Americans, and I'll tell you exactly one of the first things. America is the actual empire. And when we say empire, it is the empire to be, it's the position that you're in. America has what is called the global dollar. In other words, everything is priced in dollars. If I want to sell some coffee from Jamaica, I have to sell that in dollars. I couldn't sell that in Jamaican dollars. I have to convert from my money, which is in Jamaica, into the American dollar and then go ahead and sell that particular coffee. That's a status that everyone wants. So America will have to kind of understand that number one, everyone wants a particular status. That's one of the first things. So on the undertone of everything, you have this going on, and this is nothing new because you have had other empires around. You've had the Chinese dynasty. It was the same thing. You've had the Roman Empire. It was the same thing. You had the Greek Empire. It was the same thing. You had the Spanish Empire. It was the same thing. You had the Dutch Empire. Any one of the times of empires, if you were to pull up history, these are pole positions. Even the Mali Empire, because there was a point where Africa actually ruled the world, and the Mali Empire was as hated just the same when you had your Mansa Musa. So being in the pole position is going to be a position that people are going to be complaining about at all points in time because people are trying to actually win that basic spot. Now, when it comes to Caribbeaners, right? Caribbeaners have been through the, remember, we've been culture, especially British Caribbean. We've been cultured to the British, who are big on schoolwork. And so there's a level of classism into schoolwork. There's a big level of classism where, you know what I mean, it's hey, if you haven't gone to this school or that school, then, how dare you speak to me? And by the way, this even actually happens inside of the actual culture of Jamaica. Just so you guys understand, or in the cultures of any of the English speaking Caribbean. I'm not sure about the Spanish speaking and the other ones, but for the English speaking Caribbean, you do have that air of classism that exists, and it's coming from that colonial time.
Get into it. I'll tell you what's going on because I
Yeah,
like it.
yeah,
I like it, and
yes.
it's good for us to talk about.
Yes, it is because and you know what? And be honest with you, O'Neill. On one hand, I do feel like they look down on us, but yes, but yet you taking advantage of our resources at the same time because you migrate here, take advantage of our resources that we're not using, I guess. All right, and then
All right. So again, using of the resources, it makes sense. And again, that's that same thing again, where being the empire, you tend to control most of the resources all around. For example, products are shipped here and are pretty much very cheap in the US in comparison to everywhere else. There are lots of tariffs on other goods in different countries, and they're more expensive. So for example, if I want to get a particular thing, like for example, you will have instances of America saying, I'm going to give y'all some instances. You could have an instance of America saying, hey, if you're going to buy soya beans, or you're going to buy beef, or you're going to buy tomatoes, or you're going to buy chicken, you have to buy them from me. Or if you're buying them from China, then you're going to have to put a tariff on them. So those are some other things where you find now that the empire has made people rely on it. And so yes, people are going to want to come into the empire because the empire has kind of made these things happen. So these are other intricacies that actually are fabricated between all of these various societies. So sometimes you can be finding that as well too. That's why people are clamoring to come to the US, because they can come to the US, right? and they can find a stable job here and there. You can't really find it as much as that in, say, for example, Jamaica. What you'll find is you'll have more educated people and less jobs. But in America, you'll have probably more jobs and say less educated people, if you see that kind of particular balance. And those things are happening because the empire is saying, I want to produce everything and sell it to your particular state. So these are another part of all of that with the whole idea when it comes to resources. These are big, big things and they affect the whole balance of what we're actually seeing. So some of the times the little things that we're getting, they're coming from these undertones. That's what's going on.
Also, but on the other hand, I feel like, on one hand, I feel like, I think that there's a reason why sometimes Americans look down on because some of us ain't shit. But but that's
You know what? You could say that, but you could say that, but that's not the biggest caveat because the truth is, you do have people who are terrible everywhere. You know what I mean? And I understand that, you do have that, but you do have people that are not as terrible everywhere. Another big thing is that America has a lot of, and let's speak about it. America has a different level of racism. Jamaica have more classism. Is there racism and can you witness racism? You can. But you'd have to go to the extreme top and be making lots of money and billions for you to see the actual racism in Jamaica. Outside of that, it's just more of just classism. It really is, hey, I went to this particular school, you never went to that school, and so because of that, I am better than you, or I've gotten this education, and or I have more money than you, so that's perfectly fine. So you do have a range as to where you can go with all of that. So that's what you see when it comes to like the Caribbean and those kind of areas. That's really and truly what's going on. Right? I wouldn't say it's because they ain't ish. I wouldn't say that in particular because I believe that, the people of America have a certain level of confidence where nothing is wrong with the confidence. You know what I mean? The confidence is there for a reason. And I think I talked about it inside of our video. But there's a level of confidence that Americans have that you should have because you are the empire. You're supposed to be confident. No, a Jamaican culture says a lot of times, hey, you need to be humble, and Jamaica culture pushes humility and humility and humility. But no, humility is not good for anything all the time. Some of the times you need to be very, very confident, and nothing is wrong with being confident. So, some people will read that as based on how they have been cultured. You know, what I mean, hey, you must do well, but don't show off when you're doing well. But then a person like me will say, no, you need to do what you need to do, and if you're confident about what you're doing, hey, then who cares?
But like I said, that's just my opinion. I'm not speaking for anybody else, but it's just my opinion.
I think Jamaicans love, contrary to what Black Americans think. Jamaicans love Black Americans. What they don't like is the mere fact that Black Americans like take the BS.
Let me get into this because I wanted to highlight what I was talking about here. There is, okay, Jamaica's had its struggles when it came to things like slavery, right? But one of the things that Jamaica had done back in the past, now it's kind of a little bit different now and things a little bit more is different. Back in the past, Jamaica is one of those countries that rebelled a lot. And so there was a lot of rebellions. There was a lot of, hey, we're going to buck against the system. There's a lot of that in Jamaica. And so I believe that in these Caribbean islands, and you look at the Caribbean islands, and it's like that for a lot of the Caribbean islands. As a person who has done many cultural, tours around. A lot of the Caribbean islands are like that as well, where they have not been taking the base for a period of time. Now, one of the things that I do understand by coming here is that I do understand that what they had done in America, slavery wise, was ensure that the populace didn't get out of hand. In other words, ensure that the black populace didn't get too much. But it's almost like there is indeed a certain thing in Caribbeaners for seeing their black brothers and black sisters being abused by a racist system, if that makes sense. It's just tough for them to see that, even though, and again, even though racism exists in our own cultures, we just still don't like see it. Then there's also another thing about we're looking on this particular society and feeling like the society has a lot of freeness into it. Like, for example, and this is something I've been discussing with a lot of other Black Americans, and I've said one of the things that you guys have is education. There's a lot of access to education. There's a lot of access to upward mobility, like social mobility in America that we've seen. You know what I mean? Based on experiences. And we realize that if you come to America and you can work a little bit harder, you tend to be able to just to to get by faster. Like one of the running jokes is, as long as you show up on time in America, you've beaten half of the populace. Now, imagine hearing that. Then that, hey, all I have to do is come to America. And if I can be on time, then I'm already winning. I'm already beating 50% of the folks. No, it's just what it is you're going to have in an empire. In an empire where you have all the resources that are here, because of course, however those resources come by, right? And we can get into that. However them come by, you just have the resources. Of course, you're going to have people that are going to just lean on the system. And so that's what you're getting from Caribbeaners. You're getting people who see people who lean onto the system and feel like they could make better of themselves and they want to see them doing better. So it's more than just a hate. It is a bit of a frustration that you're getting versus a hate, if that makes sense to you. What you're getting from Caribbeaners is frustration, but they don't know to express that frustration because, of course, that's how Caribbeaners express frustration.
Like as to whatever the other races give them. It's the BS that the other races give you. I think that we're upset about. It's like the relationship I have with Amber, where people think I don't like Amber, but it's not really what it is. It is. No. I'm just giving you how we communicate. It's really our love for Black Americans and loving our own brother and sister. We just don't want to see it mistreated, but we realize that sometimes some people take it. And we're like, why are you even taking this mess? Like, why are you even correct? Or why are you making them think you're kind of this kind of thing versus just standing up for yourself and doing all of this? So that's really and truly what you get a lot of times from that, as well as I think it's like I guess a marketing ploy, because that's also another thing I've come to realize.
There we go. So I wanted to jump into this. A lot of the hate that is there that people are seeing is manufactured. I've listened to Antoine Daniels talk on this, and he had the whole idea of Caribbeaners and him do the whole black fatigue thing and the speak down and whatever it is. It's also marketing. A lot of this is also marketing. We're marketed to hate each other in the world. Black folk are marketed to hate each other. It's just a marketing ploy. I want y'all to understand that. So you're being marketed to hate the person coming from the Caribbean because they think they're better than you, right? And the Caribbean person is being marketed to hate the people that's here because, hey, they think they're better than you as well. So again, you have that classism structure again. These are all marketing ploys, and that's exactly what you're reading into a lot of times. That's really what you're reading into. Another thing that you're reading into is a lot of times Caribbeaners will think that people here are lazy. You know what I mean? And you do have your folks that here that are lazy, right? But it's not everyone. It's not everyone, but you do have your folks here who are pretty much lazy. But again, you do have cultures. And you're, again, if you lived in the empire, and this is exactly why I said I understand it. If you live in an empire that has a lot of these social programs around, like your food stamps and your Section 8, and you're able to get these things no matter what. In other words, it's hard for you to hit rock bottom. Then why would you not take that? And why would you not be more relaxed than a person who is from a system that doesn't have any of that? Them have no food stamps. There is no Section 8 housing. Is either you have the money or you don't have the money. You're going to live on a couch, or you're outside, or you're selling some pee. Or you're selling some D. Or you're doing something else to make money. If that is making sense.
These things are marketing. They're marketed to tell you that, hey, you're come here. So it's almost like a classism then. It's like what exists in Jamaica. A lot of classism where they say, well, I am more esteemed than you are, and I have a master's degree, so it means I'm better than you are. But it doesn't mean crap.
Yeah, because that's how Africans feel. Africans do that all the time.
And I've seen that a lot of times as well too. I've seen that. However, again, I feel like they have also been marketed to. And I feel like Africans have that same thing entrenched in their society. They have a lot of classism entrenched in the society. There's a lot of classism going on in terms of when they talk about black people. We've been affected negatively by classism. And so what you're seeing is a lot of classism. People thinking that they're in this class, so them don't have to talk to this particular person in this class. And again, what you have is the sexy red marketing, and for us, probably say the Vibes Cartel marketing, and these other marketing that saturate the airwaves. And so when people see that outside of, say, an America, that's what they're seeing and that's what they're reading as who a black American is. Trust me, it's a marketing ploy. A lot of it is marketing. So a lot of the hate and a lot of the heat that black Americans get is because, I think, of marketing. They're being marketed as being people who have nothing about them, who are not smart enough, that's what you're being marketed as. And I understand the system has disenfranchised, Black Americans a lot because you can tell based on you come here and you kind of learn the history and you realize exactly what's going on, right? So you can see all of that. Plus, you also have sometimes where people will treat you differently if you're not a Black American black versus if you're a Caribbean black. It's almost there's a difference in it because they don't know the other races here don't really quite get how to be very racist to you because they don't know what stings you because you're not kind of from here, so there is no touch. Them don't know the punching points of anything at all. So that's what you're getting a lot of times. I love this conversation. I love this actual conversation because I feel like it's one that needs to be had. Because again, I feel like they have somewhat marketed so much into the populace of both populace, which is both the Caribbean itself and in Black America. And they've found a way to break it actually apart. Something they've been doing for ages. You understand? Something that's being done for ages. And when it comes to America, America is going to get the flack, it's going to get the heat. It is the empire. Now, probably in another episode, I can get down to the other economic structures of things where, for example, how, America will probably buy up land in a particular country and, well, should say American entities will buy a large portion of farmland and just remove the crops off of it so that way they can provide crops to that country. And if a country has to rely on you for food, then guess what? Chances are people are going to want to come to your country. That's basically what's going on. When you look at a lot of the migration and a lot of what's happening with ICE and those things now, it's just happening because the empire has meddled with so many economies, or the CIA, or whoever you want to call it, whatever entity that does these things. When they go around and mess up these particular economies, that's exactly what happens. That's repercussion. If you have burnt my house down, I'm going to have to find a new place to live. And what better place to live than your place? But anyways, guys, I love this conversation. Look for the link inside of the chat. You'll see it. Look for the link inside of this video somewhere below. Faith is a substance. Great conversation. I'm gonna talk to y'all soon. Tell me what you guys think about this one. Talk to y'all soon.